Officer Chungus? Yo, just wondering, man, have you ever worked a case that kept you awake at night?
Oh, actually no, but there's one story I've heard in training that did.
Yeah, what story is that, man?
It happened over 100 years ago in Germany, a farm called, I think it's called Hinterkaifeck. You ever heard of that? Alright, well, put on your list it is, because maybe 4 or 5 minutes a day. I appreciate it. Oh, you see, before anything bad happened, strange things started happening around the farm. The farm, Andreas Gruber began noticing footprints in the snow, basically. And you know what the weird part is? The footprints led from the forest to the farm, but there were no footprints leading back. Just a trail coming in, nothing going out, as if someone had walked up to the farm, right? And stayed there. At first he ignored it, but then things got strange. He started hearing footsteps in the attic late at night. Slow footsteps, back and forth, back and forth. He searched the attic himself. No one was in there, at least. Nobody he could find or see, you know what I mean? A few days later, a set of house keys disappeared. Nobody knew where they went. One of the maids quit her job out of nowhere. She told people the farm was haunted, apparently. No one believed her, so she just left to go out and dip. Now, if that wasn't creepy enough, one day Andreas found a newspaper on the property. A newspaper nobody in the family subscribed to. Nobody knew where it came from, nobody knew who brought it there.
Wait, that's already enough for me to move, man.
Yeah, wait, it gets worse, right? It gets worse. One night in 1922, 6 people were on a farm. Andreas, his wife, his daughter, his 2 grandchildren, and their new maid. By the next morning, every single fucking one of them was dead. I mean, they out cold, motherfucker. Investigators believe the killer lured members of the family one by one into the barn. Not all at once, one at a time. Imagine that. You hear a noise outside, you go to check, and you just never come back. Then the next person goes looking for you, and they never come back either. The victims were found in the barn. The killer had attacked them with a farm tool. One after another, in complete silence. The maid and one of the children were found later inside the house. Never had a chance.
They ever actually did that?
No, unfortunately not, no. Here's the part that bothers a lot of people. The killer didn't leave. No, I mean, like, he didn't leave. After the murders, neighbors noticed smoke coming from the chimney, right? Animals were being fed. Someone was walking around the property. Days after the family was already dead. Think about that. Just think about it for a second. A murder kills an entire family and stays there. Sleeping in the house. Feeding the livestock, living among the bodies. Investigators later concluded that someone had definitely cared for the farm after the murders, which means the killer was likely still there, right? Walking through those rooms, eating their food, and even listening to the silence. Nobody knew exactly who. Nobody knows exactly why, and despite countless suspects over the years, the case was never solved.
So, you're telling me there was somebody hiding around the farm before the murders, right?
It could be, yeah, maybe.
And they might have been living there the whole time?
That's what a lot of people think. That's what they think.
That's disturbing.
Yeah.
Chungus.
Yeah.
How do you know all of these details?
Been here, right? 3 days.
Oh man, this fucking radio coming out, what the fuck?
I'm just kidding, but that story is true. That definitely is true. You know, look it up. If you don't believe me, look that up. The Hinterkaifeck Murders. They were definitely real. Definitely real. 1922 on March 31st. Look that motherfucker up. You can fact check it right now, man. That is true.
Fucking hell, man, no station like that, right, okay, well, that's pretty deep story, to be honest. You got any more, man? I don't mind hearing any more.
Yeah, let's see that. This one is real, and this happened in 1959 in the Soviet Union, a place called Dyatlov Pass. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, no, I ain't heard that story before, man.
Right then, I'll tell you that. Back then, a group of 9 experienced hikers set out on an expedition through the Ural Mountains. These weren't amateurs. They were young, fit, highly trained. The group was led by a 23-year-old student named Igor Dyatlov. The plan was simple. Cross the mountain, reach their destination, then return home. They left with cameras, journals, maps, and enough supplies for the journey. Along the way, they documented everything. Photographs, diary entries, little moments of laughter. To them, it was just another adventure. But then something happened. So nobody has ever been able to fully explain. The group was expected to send word when they returned. Days passed, nothing. At first, nobody worried. Experienced hikers often ran behind schedule, but eventually their families became concerned, right? Then search teams were actually sent out. What they found was strange. In the very beginning, very strange. Deep in the snow, they discovered hikers' tents. They were still standing, partially collapsed under the snow. But that wasn't the disturbing part. The disturbing part was that the tents had been cut open from the inside.
From the inside?
Yeah, from inside. Instead of using the entrance, the hikers had sliced their way out through the fabric. Whatever happened, they wanted out now, like immediately. Outside the tent, investigators found footprints, bare footprints, some wearing only socks, some apparently barefoot. The footprints led away from the tent and down toward a nearby forest. Remember, this happened in the winter, so temperatures were far below freezing, cold enough to kill a person in a matter of hours. Yet somehow, 9 experienced hikers left behind coats, boots, and equipment. The very things they would need to survive, right? The search continued. At the edge of the forest, they found the first 2 bodies. The hikers were lying beneath a large cedar tree. Evidence suggests they had tried to start a fire. Broken branches were scattered above them as if someone had climbed the tree. Maybe to look back towards the camp. Maybe to see what was happening. No one knows. Nearby, 3 more bodies were found. They seemed to be heading back towards the tent, as if they had decided to return. As if whatever frightened them had passed. But they never made it. Not one of them. The remaining 4 hikers were missing. For weeks, search teams combed the mountain. Snow continued to fall. The wilderness scored clues. Months later, the final 4 bodies were discovered buried beneath deep snow in a ravine. And that's where the mystery became even stranger. Several of the hikers had suffered serious injuries, broken ribs, massive chest trauma. One had a fractured skull. Investigators later compared the force to what might have been seen in a major vehicle collision. There was no vehicle. There was no roads, no signs of struggle, no evidence that another group had attacked them. Some injuries were so serious that the experts struggled to explain how they happened in the middle of a remote mountain range. Then there were the smaller details. One hiker was missing her tongue. Others were missing soft tissue from the face. Over the years, those details led to countless rumors. Investigators believe some of those injuries likely occurred naturally after death due to the environmental conditions damaging animals. Still, when people heard those details, the stories spread everywhere.
So what actually caused it?
That's the problem. Nobody knows for certain, man. Over the decades, theories appeared one after another. An avalanche, military testing, strong winds creating terrifying sounds, sudden natural events, even stronger theories involving secret experiments. Some people claim the hikers saw something in the night. Others believe they heard something. Something so frightening that they abandoned everything and fled into the darkness. But none of those explanations answer every question. The official investigation at the time concluded that the group died because of what was described as an overwhelming natural. That's it. No clear answer, no confirmed cause, no final explanation that satisfies everyone, right? The photographs recovered from their cameras still exist. The journal still exists. The last image taken during that journal still exists. They show young people smiling, hiking through beach steps, enjoying the adventure. None of them knew they were documenting the final days of their lives. And more than 60 years later, people are still arguing about what happened on that mountain.
So after all this time, nobody really knows why they cut away out of the tent?
No.
And nobody knows what made them leave that gear behind in the freezing cold?
That is correct, no. No.
And nobody knows exactly what happened that night?
Nope. Not one person knows.
Well, that's probably worse than having an answer.
I agree. It remains a mystery.
Way fucking worse, right? Yo, you got any more stories? Cause I'm all ears, man. I'm all ears.
Sure, no, so I've got a story for you, and this is a case file. Yeah, this is a pretty scary and true story. This is the story of the Sodder Children. It was Christmas Eve, 1945. A family named the Sodders lived in a large house in West Virginia. George and Jenny Sodder had 10 children. That night was supposed to be like any other Christmas Eve. The children were excited. Some stayed up later than usual, playing with new toys and enjoying the holiday. Eventually, most of the family went to sleep. Just after midnight, the phone rang. Jenny answered it. A strange woman was on the other end. She asked for someone. Jenny didn't know. There was laughter in the background. Then the call ended. Jenny swore it was on, but didn't think much of it. She went back to bed. A little while later, she woke up again. This time, because she heard a noise on the roof. Something hit the house. A loud thump. And silence.
Hey, that's creepy already, man.
Just wait. Not long after, Jenny woke up a third time, and now she smelled smoke. When she opened her bedroom door, she saw flames spreading through the house. The family sprang into action. George and Jenny managed to get some of the children out, but 5 children were still upstairs. Morris, Martha, Louise, Jenny, and Betty. The staircase was already engulfed in flames. The parents couldn't reach them. George ran outside. He had an old ladder he usually uses to access the upper floor windows. He went to get it, but it was gone.
Gone?
Gone, yeah, gone. The ladder had always been kept in the same place. Now it vanished. George then tried another option. He had work trucks parked nearby. He planned to drive one next to the house and climb onto the roof. Both trucks refused to start. Same trucks that had worked perfectly days before, but by the time he realized they wouldn't run, the fire was out of control. The family could do nothing but watch. And within a short time, the house collapsed. The official conclusion was simple. The 5 children had died in the fire. That's where the story should have ended. Instead, that's where it began. After the fire, investigators searched the ruins. They expected to find remains. 5 children had supposedly died inside, but they found almost nothing. No clear evidence of 5 bodies, no remains that seemed to match what investigators expected. The Sodders couldn't understand it. Neither could some experts who later looked at the case, and strange details began surfacing. Remember the phone call? Investigators learned that the phone line had been tampered with. It hadn't burned during the fire. Someone had physically interfered with it, and there was the ladder. It was eventually discovered far from where it normally belonged, as if someone had moved it before the fire, and witnesses came forward. One person claimed he saw a man around the property before The reports never completely stopped. They never stopped believing it. George and Jenny became obsessed with finding answers. They put up a huge billboard near the highway. It displayed photographs of the missing children, along with a reward. Every day drivers passed it, years after years. The parents were convinced their children hadn't died. They believed someone had taken them, and they spent decades trying to prove it. And one day, many years later, something arrived in the mail. A photograph. It showed a young man. On the back was a handwritten message suggesting he might be one of the missing Sodder Children. The family was stunned. They examined the face, compared it to the old photograph. Some believed that there was a resemblance. They hired investigators, but before anything could be confirmed, the trail went cold again. No answers, no certainty. It's another mystery.
So what's really happened?
Nobody knows, man. The official explanation remains that the children died in the fire, but the family never accepted it. And to this day, people still debate the case. They ask the same question. Why was the phone line tampered with? Why was the ladder moved? Why was there so many reports of sightings afterwards? And perhaps the biggest question of all, why were there so few remains found in the ashes?
You know what makes that scary?
What?
Not knowing which possibility is worse.
Exactly.
If they died in that fire, it's tragic.
And if they didn't,
And where do they go, right?
that's the question people have been asking since Christmas Eve 1945, man. No one knows.